Hey everyone, welcome to the Two Guys in a Cooler channel. My name's Eric, and today we're going to be starting part one of a four-part series on a topic that's incredibly complex. We're going to be talking about salts, we're going to be talking about curing salts, and we're going to be talking about the use of vegetable powders as a curing agent. There's a lot of misinformation about these three particular ingredients, especially in the use for curing meats or applications of charcuterie. What I hope to accomplish through the course of this series is to break down each one of these ingredients. We're going to talk about what they can do, and we're going to talk about what they can't do. And hopefully by the end of this series, you'll have a better understanding, a more well-rounded perspective of what each one of these ingredients can do and how you might be able to use them or not use them in your charcuterie projects. The first ingredient that I want to unmask today is salt. Salt has been used as a preservative for millennia, and let me share with you how it works. When you add salt to meat, it's going to immediately want to start creating equilibrium. And it does this through the process of osmosis. The salt begins to replace the water in the cells with salt molecules, lowering the water activity. And it's this single step that preserves the meat. The lower you can get your water activity, the safer your meat is going to be. Studies have shown that a water activity at 0.94 or less creates an environment that's inhospitable to foodborne pathogens. Sounds amazing, right? Salt can do the trick. Well, here's a couple things that we need to be concerned with. There's really no easy way for someone who does home production of charcuterie to measure the water activity. The most economical unit that you can get your hands on that tests the water activity is a portable water activity meter that fits into your pocket. It's literally called Paw Kit by Aqualabs. This unit sells for roughly $2,400, and then there's the accessories that are valued at about $400 on top of that, typically meant for on-the-go testing. So it is available if you want to fork out that kind of cash, but most home producers are not going to have the ability to test the water activity of their product. So unfortunately, the water activity of your meat is going to be a mystery, and this isn't really something that you want to play the guessing game at, right? This is something that you're probably going to eat, feed to your family, feed to your neighbors, maybe even sell, and you could put a lot of people at risk if your product's not safe. Building on that point, I want to add that salt, albeit a great inhibitor of certain bacteria, isn't an effective killer of all bacteria, meaning if by the time you get your product and there's some bad bacteria on it, salt's not going to do a very good job killing it, and that bacteria will cause your meat to become very unsafe. A particular bacteria that we need to be specifically concerned with is one called Clostridium botulinum. This bacteria is incredibly hardy. It's been shown to resist certain salinity environments, and it's been shown that salt does not kill it. Clostridium botulinum is also known more commonly as botulism. What I find incredibly fascinating is that the name botulism is actually derived from the Latin root word botulus. Botulus in Latin means sausage. I don't think that there's any coincidence that the Latin word botulus was associated with sausage poisoning, which was a major problem, especially when sausage was being made with cures that didn't have antimicrobial properties. So here's some things that you need to really be aware of if you're only going to be using salt in your charcuterie projects. How much salt do you use in order to achieve a 0.94 or lower water activity? Most recipes are going to have a salt content of between around 1.5% to about 6%, depending on whether you're making sausages, salamis, whether you're doing a dry rub or a brine. But this salt percentage is coupled with the use of a curing agent, something like Instacure number 1 or Instacure number 2. So if you're not going to be using Instacure number 1 or Instacure number 2, and you're only going to be using salt, then you're going to absolutely need to increase that percentage. Now here's where it gets interesting, because not very many people can agree on what percentage needs to be added and how much time it's going to take in order to get your water activity to a safe place. Some people say 7%, other people say 20%. In addition to the percentage of salt, you also have to consider time, temperature, pressure, and pH. All of these play a fairly large factor in reducing the water activity of your meat. All right, so that's the first thing that you're going to have to consider. Another thing that we need to take into consideration is the meat. Where did the meat come from? Was the livestock healthy? How was the animal slaughtered? What was the facility like in which the animal was slaughtered? And how long did it take from slaughterhouse to processing? And once again, what was the facility like? Was it done in sanitary conditions? Was the animal kept in refrigeration to preserve the meat? And then finally, from processing, How long did it take to get onto your table? Is the meat fresh? Because all of these factors play an enormous role in the condition of the type of bacteria that grows on the meat. If you're going to use only salt to cure your meat, which personally I wouldn't recommend, but if you are, you really need to know the answer to every one of those questions. And even if you do, it still doesn't guarantee that by the time you receive your meat, it's going to be free from harmful bacteria. So how can you determine whether or not your meat has any foodborne pathogens that can harm you? Well, unfortunately, you can't. It's tasteless and it's odorless. And without the use of special laboratory equipment, it's invisible. So you will never know until it's too late. One final point that I want to make about salt is this. What if you're making a product in which lowering the water activity is not an option? What if you're making something like smoked sausages? Smoked sausages are going to have a low salt content. They're going to be put in an environment with little to no oxygen, and they're going to have water activity that's fairly high. All of these conditions are perfect for the growth of bacteria that you do not want on your meat. So as we finish up our section on salt, what we can take away from this ingredient being used exclusively as a curing agent is that it's potentially unsafe. It's not 100% effective against all foodborne pathogens, and if you're not entirely sure where your animal came from that you're going to be processing, this could be a problem. The percentage of salt that you need to add and the amount of time you need to allow it to cure to reach the safe water activity level is also going to be a mystery. For these reasons, salt presents itself as an incredibly risky ingredient to be used exclusively as a curing agent. So with this information, you have to ask yourself, is this a gamble that you're willing to take? If it is, and you choose to use salt exclusively, you want to shy away from salts that have any additives like iodine or anything like that. Some good salts that you can use are sea salt, even purified salt. Just make sure there's no additional additives to your salt. But what if you're not willing to take that gamble? What if you're the kind of person that wants to play it safe? Be sure to stick around for part 2 of this 4-part series where we talk a little bit deeper about salts, cures, and vegetable powders. We answer the questions and we give you the straight up honest facts. That way you can be informed and make an intelligent decision. If you're new to this channel, we'd like to say welcome. Consider subscribing, clicking that notification bell, and if you got anything out of this, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to share. We'll see you in part 2.